The talk that I'm going to give you is about how people assess credibility when they are finding information, evaluating information, and using information. Okay, why credibility in the conference about information quality? Because I consider credibility assessment is a very core and chief aspect of information quality issues. My talk will be composed of roughly 3 parts. First, I'm going to talk about the sort of general concepts and notions of information credibility, how that is related to information quality and cognitive authority, and also relevance issues. So after that, I'm going to present 3 studies that I recently conducted, and then I can highlight some of the major findings and then results that I would like to share. And then I move on to the 3rd part where I introduce online information literacy game called bibliotecas that we developed, and then how this whole idea of teaching and instructing information quality and credibility issues in the context of learning learning. So that's going to be our outline of my talk. So first, I will begin with actually introducing this book written by Patrick Wilson, who is an information scientist and philosopher. He wrote a book called Second-Hand Knowledge. And according to him, basically, people construct knowledge based on 2 different ways. One is that based on their first-hand knowledge, first-hand experience. For example, like somebody talk about Mexico City, now that I have a first-hand experience, I know a lot, and then I can really relate to the conversation. First-hand experience is always more powerful, better, and then more trustworthy because that's what you got as a first-hand experience. Second-hand knowledge is basically someone has told you either face-to-face, through books, articles, or on the web. However, we cannot really rely on always first-hand experience because then we have a very limited knowledge about the world. A lot of things that we learned as an idea and knowledge is something that other people have told us or other people have witnessed. Now, the challenge is that we cannot really count all that other people have told me as equally reliable, right? So some people know what they are talking about, some people don't know what they are talking about. So when you are looking for information, you always have to sort of decide, like what is a really more credible information, which has more high quality, and so on. So that's the kind of area that I'm interested in. And I want to share today. So information seekers, when they are reading books, reading articles, reading news online, they have to sort of think about a number of different things. Now, the issue here is that, as we have heard, some of the publication venues, such as Science or other public journals, go through very rigorous review process. So somebody can kind of assume and then start somewhere in terms of quality of information. Some other information, such as blog or Wikipedia, or a lot of online information available online, there is no such quality control mechanism. So now it's all information seekers' responsibility to make assessment about credibility. What's more challenging is that in the morning, Professor Sarasevich introduced this multidimensional concept of information quality. The problem is that these quality attributes are not always consistent. Sometimes you get something correct, but does not really look very accurate. Sometimes you think that it sounds really interesting, but you actually have some doubts about methodology. So picture is more important, right? When it looks really useful, but not really, like it doesn't really sound scientific enough. Like what is the most really cheap attributes that people have to rely on to make judgment about information quality? I would say that information credibility is a cheap aspect of information quality. That people tend to be increasingly rely on to assess the value of information. Traditionally, like the information science area, information quality, credibility, and cognitive authority has been considered as one of the criteria people actually rely on. However, I think it's actually interesting general, and this is how I see it. I see that relevance judgment is the broadest concept that basically it's about the relation between a user's information need and information objects they actually encounter in a certain time. Now, there are a number of different aspects of relevance. People now increasingly concerned about information quality. Okay, as we heard this morning, information quality also itself has a many aspects. Whether this is like, good, how good, what is it by good, it has to be really current, accurate, and so on. So, information quality kind of serves as a tool for people to assess credibility. Okay, now the issue is about to what extent people really can trust the information they have read or they encounter. So that's a kind of subset of information quality they can actually trust. Another concept that Patrick Wilson introduced was cognitive authority. Cognitive authority is not only about quality and credibility, it's about actually somebody saying something that influences your thought in a very fundamental way. You actually change your mind because of that. To summarize, information quality, now actually I've got a better definition from Professor Salasevich. It's really about value of information or it's a fitness for the use of information provided. I think that's more current, and then I would consider it's more affirmative information. So that's information quality. When I was writing a piece for Encyclopedia or Library of Information Sciences, I had to provide a definition to complete that article because it's an encyclopedia. I define information credibility as people's assessment of whether information is trustworthy based on their own experience and knowledge. Okay? And then cognitive authority, as I said, is an influence on people's thoughts and then to be recognized as proper. I would like to actually point out that cognitive authority is different from administrative authority. Administrative authority means that somebody is a director, dean, or president, so this person has a power to command. I'm not talking about that kind of authority. I'm talking about very subjective person's perceived authority in a sense that this person is a leading authority in particular field. So I have a full respect. I believe what this person is saying. As a result, this person's writing influences my thoughts. So since I'm going to talk about information credibility, let me elaborate a little bit about what I mean by emotional information credibility. Just like relevance and information quality, this is also a very intricate and complex concept. Also, it is not about whether the information credibility actually is a part of the information object. I would argue that it's actually people who make judgment about information. For example, there is a federal grant agency called Institute of Library and Museum Services. It's called IMLS. Okay, this funding agency, US, they actually provide a number of interesting programs to support programs and research in library information science area and libraries and museums. Since I am actually frequently applying for the grant through this agency, when they actually post certain information about information literacy, for example, I actually need to trust them. However, that doesn't mean that you actually need to trust the information from IMLS because IMLS is a pretty US funding agency. So I cannot expect that people from Mexico or people from Korea will recognize the name of the IMLS, just like people in the US people do, and they automatically think that this is credible. Even though, what I'm saying is that even though this is a very, very reputable institute, unless you recognize that reputation, okay, unless this is very well known in the particular country or culture, that doesn't mean much to the person. So I would argue credibility assessment is a very subjective concept, and that everyone is bringing their own experience, their own knowledge, and their own belief. I think the credibility has a stronger component of this kind of prior experience and the prior knowledge influence their judgment. Now, I'm moving to introduce kind of research that I have been doing as a student. there are increasingly a number of credibility researchers. I claim that my research is distinctive from some other master's work because I aim to investigate credibility in the context of information seeking. First, I would say that people's goals and tasks are really important. Basically, these are the motivation why people engage in information seeking. So, for example, when somebody is looking for their work, somebody is looking for academic achievement, somebody is looking for to solve the problem in order to make an important decision, their credibility concerns are, of course, very high. However, doesn't mean that they have to be also concerned when they are looking for very trivial questions, right? When they are looking for entertainment. Their credibility is not such an issue. So we should pay attention in the context, particularly goals and tasks of information. The second one, I would say that credibility is really important to be examined in the process of information seeking process. What it means is that we are trying to understand their credibility assessment. Actually, the best way is looking at their information seeking process. For example, where they begin, why they would start with Google instead of library, or why they would start with actually library database than Wikipedia. What it turns out is that it's actually when they make such decisions where to start, it's a very, very critical point for them to start with. Okay, I would argue that people do not randomly select. People are not that lazy. They actually make a decision very quickly. However, it is driven by trust. I've been using Google for the past 10 years, and most of the time, I know that there are some times I did not find what I was looking for, but most of the time, it's been pretty successful, so why not? I'm good at that. So the same thing. So this kind of sort of understanding the process, especially where they begin, what sort of leads them to predict that particular site, particular system, particular institute will give me the best information is very, very important. Another thing is that although there are a number of different libraries, numerous websites, people actually tend to use quite a limited number of websites. People actually tend to go back the same site, pretty routine days. And whenever they do, what I mean is that when they are using a familiar site, then they rely on their history. I'll talk more about the history later. First study that I want to introduce is something that I conducted interview with college students. Even though the sample is rather small with 24 students, I actually asked them to keep tracking their information activities for 10 days. And every day, they have to submit the diary. Looking at your day, what was the most important information seeking episodes that you had? And then we have about 10 questions that they need to fill out. After 10 days, we met, and then we talk about their information seeking episode. The reason that I actually implemented this kind of a method is that based on my previous work before this study, I learned that when you ask people, any like study participants, are you concerned about credibility of information or not? Or how important is it for you to select the news information or not based on credibility? Some people say automatically, yeah, I think it's important. Or people say, I don't really care. Credibility is not something that people consciously pay attention. Our life will be actually very, very difficult that every time you read something or somebody is telling you something, is it trustworthy? Should I trust this person? Going on. People don't do that. It's not something that many researchers are interested in, librarians are interested in kind of issue. It's not something that users are interested in. Users are interested in basically, this is a quote from one of the interviewees. They are interested actually only obtaining the best information in a focused way. Okay? However, if you do the interview, instead of asking them, were you concerned about credibility, what you should ask instead is, tell me about your information process. Where did you start? Why did you start? Is this something that you use quite often? How did it go? Was it successful? Were you able to learn the information? Did you have to find more information? eventually, why did you go there? When you got the conflicting information, how did you resolve? When you ended your information, you know, okay, at what point you felt like that you got enough useful and trustworthy information. These are kind of like a methodology that I have used. And then I realized that actually credibility is something that's embedded and play an important role in the process of information seeking. And that the reason that they actually come to professor, they come to librarian or library database, or their friends and family is not like that, I should look for credible information. It's more about, because I think that they will give me good information. I trust them, okay? So they use this kind of rely on like the sort of resources they know as a shortcut to get the information the best and quickest way. So also based on the analysis of the data, analysis of data, I was able to develop framework that is information credibility assessment data. It turns out there seem to be 3 levels of credibility assessment. The first one is about the most abstract level, how a person constructs, conceptualizes, and defines credibility. To some people, quality is most important. To other people, reliability is more important. Some other people say objectivity is most important. Okay, so that's a kind of point of view for them to evaluate the information. The second level, something that I told you a little bit, it's a basically general rule of thumb that are broadly applicable to a variety of situations. Okay, what that means is that, you know, I get news pretty much from CNN or New York Times all the time. So when I use that in my like a news site, actually I don't really pay attention to individual context because that newspaper company gives me enough authority. I like my professor, so I tend to trust whatever she's saying. And then also sometimes we say that I don't trust Wikipedia. It's sort of that there are very general rule of thumb. What they believe, what they don't believe based on the source, based on media. I have seen some students say that everything looks beautiful. I trust the information, except particular persons. Now, somehow you don't have enough experience. You never really used this site before. You never heard this resource before. Then you actually pay attention to the content, and then you read it. Whether this is well written, this is long enough. You know whether what's the author's qualification and so on. And that actually happens only once in a while. They need to look at more closely. So visually, this is what I can present, is that information seekers actually start with something in the context of information seeking, right? That they have bringing their own construct, and the information object itself has a variety of different characteristics of information objects and sources. Now, those people who have a more experience, they rely on their heuristics more. Those people who actually have done much using online information, they actually tend to rely on modes of interaction. So, the influence is that this special heuristic, it provides a very useful way to find information in a quick way. However, I would say that heuristics is not just random. It's not, again, not because users are very lazy or trying to make this effort. That's because they actually have accumulated experience, and then they just rely on 1 or 2 very simple rules to make a credibility assessment, rather than going through a big, like long checklist. What's the current, where is the from, what's the journal, when is published, and so on. People just don't do that in order to make a credibility assessment. Second study, I was very inspired by this finding about heuristics. So I went ahead, and at this time, I used a different method. This time, I actually asked people to keep tracking their diary. This time, 5 times a day, 3 days. And then they submit more than 2,000, close to 2,500 diaries. We will now analyze them. Now, I want to focus on two things in this talk. One was what I was interested in was that now that people are not only information seekers, they are also content contributors. So I was interested in whether they are creating content versus reading and searching versus uploading and downloading multimedia or doing online shopping. Depending on the types of information behavior, today actually their levels of credibility and concerns differ. The answer was no. Actually, information expertise or information behavior itself does not influence their credibility concerns. However, they are actually goals and tasks for, again, very important for them to what extent they should be concerned about credibility. The other thing that I found interesting was that the way that people actually rely on their statistics were different depending on the types of information. So, the question that I asked was that how you decide which information to select. And then there was a long list, right? From sites that I'm familiar with, it was provided by the organization that I know, and so on. And then I divided out the online information, for this talk, just to two. My paper has actually 10 different categories. But traditional websites, like such as news sites, e-commerce sites, search engine, general websites. The other category, I was putting together blogs, social networking sites, forum, online community, and so on. What I want to point out here is the kind of heuristics that apply across these different types of information was different. So, for example, recommended by experts was actually heuristic when they are using traditional web media, not anymore. However, when they are using more sort of like a user-generated content or multimedia sites, popularity, recommended by individuals that I know, such as my friends, that kind of sort of like strategies become their heuristic. As a follow-up study, this time I ran lab-based study where I was comparing two things. One is that when they were asked to do just the information searching versus when they were asked to create the content that goes into blog, how their behavior changes and how their credibility ratios changes. The other part was that when they were introduced to user-generated content, we actually pre-selected those sites, and then when they were introduced to traditional media content that everybody can recognize the name, how their ratings would be. Now, after they were asked to start with the sites that we gave them, but after that, they could continue in their own way. I guess the first one was not that interesting. It's pretty obvious, right? When they are looking for or create content regarding health and news, traditional media content got a lot higher ratings than user-generated content. What was interesting was that when they were engaging in product information, actually they rated UGC, TMC equally. In terms of the travel, they actually preferred some of the information that was written by actual travelers. I think that actually the second and third point are even more interesting. The second point was that my assumption was when they were asked to create a content, I think that they would invest more effort. They would be more careful because eventually the content would be shared. That was not the case. The case was that when they were searching, they actually put in more effort. And I think that because they were very busy searching something, and then as a result, they were more focusing on writing on the content pages. What I found most interesting from this study was that the question that I asked was that how much effort did you invest when you decide which website to use? How much effort did you invest when you evaluate the credibility of information in the web? Okay, and then I also asked, to what extent do you feel that you learned something new? How satisfied with the content that you either created or the content that you have found? The results show that when they reported, they invest more effort. Okay, either in the process of selecting where to go or evaluating the online content, they are more likely to report that they actually learned something more. they actually were more satisfied with the position. I think this is a really great news for information professionals, because even though in current practices they design their heuristics, if somehow we can show them though actually your efforts will be paid back by learning more new things and they will be more satisfied. I think they have some hope. So to summarize my research findings, I think that we know three things as a takeaway point. The first, credibility judgment is not always individual activity. Nowadays, especially younger people, but I think that actually general public that I surveyed through the diary study as well, they actually rely on other people's recommendation quite a lot. The second one was that their heuristics and interaction, the way that they are evaluating information, is strongly influenced by what types of information they are interacting with. Third, as I just said, we need to actually encourage people to make more effort in evaluating information credibility and quality, because there is a good chance that you will actually learn more and then you'll be more satisfied. Now, I have only 5 minutes ago there, but I'm going to really talk about this. This is a really exciting game, I think, that I developed with two colleagues at the University of Michigan. We thought that we really needed this kind of online game that teaches college students to how to use library resources. However, as we know, like today's college students are very confident about their searching skills. Classroom-based teaching doesn't really work effectively. So we decided to develop a game called bibliotecas. Bibliotecas means a mini lecture, a mini series of books, mini series of games. One game, that's because the college students like it. More than that, what's more importantly, games allow people to engage their senses and feelings. Okay, their very research facilitates the interaction with their peers. When they are playing games, unlike some of the classroom teaching, they actually have a strong motivation to learn something rather quickly. They don't mind actually repeating things eventually so that they can win. So we thought that this attributes of the game is a good potential to teach library sort of like a research process and college environment. So this basically has 4 components. One is a donor vote, and what it means is that like in the classroom setting, they actually have a group project to work on, such as global warming. Okay, everyone go out and then find relevant information, and they have to donate their articles. We provided them certain scoring system where peer-reviewed articles get higher score, Wikipedia get lower. You got the picture, right? Books are relatively high, peer report and research report is less than peer-reviewed articles but higher than Wikipedia and so on. They are all aware of that. They go out and they find information and then they donate to the group database. And then in the closer route, they actually kind of evaluate like rather casually and then trying to add more information. I think the most important part is tagging and rating about, because that's about how to evaluate information. So basically they are not supposed to rate their own, they have to rate other students' source. It has 2 parts. One is that they were asked to tag the format. We actually gave them 19 different information formats, as I listed here, such as book, conference proceeding, magazine, newspaper, and so on. Right? And then the other part was actually they were asked to evaluate some content in terms of quality. We gave them 2 different ways. One was asking them about credibility in 3 ways. For example, do you believe whether this is written by experts? To what extent do you believe that this paper is trustworthy? Do you think that this is actually scholarly? And then we asked them to please provide the reasons why you gave this grade. In terms of relevance questions, we also came up with 3. Usefulness, good enough, accurate. Okay, and then we did the same thing, explain why you gave such a grade. So it looks like this, okay? This is a online game we have. In the left side, they can see the source like basically the article, and then in the bottom it has a link to the PDF or URL. And the right side, they have a scale of 0 to 100, and then it's a kind of sliding bar, and then they could actually rate the article using 3 criteria of credibility, and then again 3 criteria of relevance. And then there in the box, they have a chance to write down why they gave this rating. So I have 0 minutes, so I'm going to be fast. The findings was that, I'm not just looking at, we have a number of different sort of ways to analyze experience within my day. I want to give you the findings from the tagging and rating box. So what we learned was that, not surprising in a way, but still it's good to verify, they had a really hard time when they were asked to evaluate or decide what's the format out of the 19 choices. So what we did was that when they actually had this format, researchers went and then see actually what are the really matching. We know as an expert what this format was, and then they actually post their answer. In terms of the web, only 38% students were able to identify what kind of format this is, versus when they are using library database, they were able to do in terms of 77%. So what it means is that as a library setting, they have a pretty clear idea whether I'm reading book, I'm reading scholarly journal, I'm reading conference paper, although it's like 30%, or 23% they were not so sure. However, the challenge is on the web, not in the library resources. As we don't know, the problem is that they design on web to a greater distance. When they are using web, they cannot tell whether this is a magazine article, whether this is a blog, whether this is a report, and so on. So that's a big problem. The second one was that, okay, the later one was that when they were talking about in that small box, right, when they're talking about information format in the library setting, it actually contributes positively to their credibility assessment. It's a scholarly article. They know what they are looking at, right? So it's positively influence their decision. However, when they are using the web, actually identification of the information format negatively influence their decision. Okay, so Wikipedia puts out. This is a blog puts out. So it was used in different ways. Now, so based on this like my credibility research and this bibliographic experience, I'm working on like developing another game where this time we really want to teach college students and possibly high school students how to evaluate the credibility of information in the website. I think that actually it may have a bigger implication because that's where they are right now, spending a lot of time. So I am looking forward for the rest of the conference to have more conversation about my next project. Gracias.